Hardrocker highlights here from Dunham Field at O'Hara Stadium as we talk with Hardrocker head football coach Dan Kratzer. I'm Tom Rudebusch, and we get to talk about another Hardrocker victory, a homecoming win, 58-10 over Mayville State. And Dan, if you could script out a Hardrock victory on M-Day, that would be it.
Well, it was an outstanding effort by our team. We were really pleased with what went on that day, and you know, obviously we had a little transition to do with special teams with the wind that day. You know how the wind blows up here in South Dakota. Well, we had one of those days, and that was a little concern to us, but everything worked out just as planned with the kickoff and getting the wind in the first quarter and taking advantage of field position. And it was a fun game. You know, the thing that probably was most exciting was most of the second half we got to play a lot of young players, and we had an entire offensive line made up of freshmen, and they scored twice in that ball game. So that gives us hope for the future.
You know, the Hardrockers are one of 4 teams tied at 3-0 on top of the DAC conference standings now, and they've moved up to number 18 in the latest NAIA national poll. And I would expect fans to watch us, Dan, and talk about offense, but I want to talk about defense. You know, I've been watching this Hardrocker defense, and the more I watch them, the more I am so impressed by that front super job.
Well, they have, and you know, Wyatt transferred in here a couple of years ago from South Dakota State, and we felt like he would be a real contributor for us, and he proved to be that. And of course, Kimness and Berkey were 2 guys that we recruited and just knew that they were the type of player that we needed in that kind of defensive front. Quick, strong, aggressive, never say die kind of attitudes. And boy, they've all 3 played very well this year. And you know, it's no different in the defensive line than it is in the offensive line. It all starts up front.
And your offensive line, Jamie Dale has 800 yards rushing, and Jamie's got to be patting those offensive linemen on the back quite a bit because they're opening some holes for him. And Jamie seems to be a little bit more of a patient runner this year.
Well, I think that's one thing that we've kind of stressed and talked about. You know, in the zone scheme that we run, it's important that the back let things happen, and then when the hole develops, now use your quickness and speed, and that's whether we're running inside or whether we're running outside. The same kind of philosophy kind of prevails, and Jamie has grown to understand that, you know, as a running back, and he's matured as a player in that respect, and you know, I think he's just going to get better and better.
You know, when you look at the special teams too on Saturday, we had one of the greatest punts I've ever watched. It was about a 65-yarder for Colton Sheldon, and that ball hopped and went out of bounds right over here to our left at about the 1 to 2 inch line. Dan, have you ever seen a punt like that? I think the back of the ball was in the end zone when Mayville took over.
It was close. You know, that was a great punt, and that's what Colton is capable of when he gets good snaps. You know, everything's so relied in the special teams. Everything relies on what happens at the very start of the play. On the punt team, it's the snap. If the snap's high, low, left, right, it's a real variable for the kicker. On the kickoff, it all starts with how the ball's placed on the tee and what the contact point is. You know, so all those kind of things are important. But Sheldon, you know, he works. He's constantly working on directional kicking. He's constantly working on high kicks, and he's constantly working on, you know, his form. And he has just great punting form. And you know, his dad was a punter. I think he developed a little of that naturally. And but he's done a great job. And that particular kick, you know, that'll be framed in your mind forever because it was a beautiful kick. It was high. It was a spiral. And as you said, there's about 2 inches on the corner of that line that it stayed in. So it was a great opportunity for us to back them up in great field position. And we have a kind of defense now that can get points out of those kind of situations. And we almost did. You know, we got one earlier at the other end with the safety, but we were close to getting another one down here.
You know, the Hardrockers and Dickinson State, which is ranked 10th in this week's NAIA poll, along with Minot and Black Hills State, those are the 4 teams that are 3-0. Dan, we got 4 teams 3-0, 4 teams 0-3, and this week we play a Jamestown College team that I just can't believe is 0-3.
Well, exactly. They're much better than the record, and you know what happens. You know, it's all in schedule. You know, who do you play early? Who do you play late? And you know, we were fortunate to have the draw that we have, but I don't think that is influential on the fact that we're 4-1 right now. We actually played another ranked team, Montana Tech, early in the season
on the road,
and beat them on the road. And then we played Colorado School of Mines, which is they're still winning ball games and winning by a pretty good margin in Division II. So you know, we got our test early, and now we're in a position where we have to really push and push and push through those first 3 conference games, and now we're elevating our play each week. And so the timing, everything's, the stars are aligned. You know, I'm we're just focused this week on Jamestown and playing better than they do on Saturday.
What about Jamestown? They actually handled us pretty well up in North Dakota last year. How much does a game like that affect this game at all, if any?
Well, as we watched the film of last year's game last night, the most noted thing by the players and team were the fact that in the 4th quarter we played harder than they did, and we stopped them offensively. And in the 4th quarter, we scored back-to-back touchdowns without punting. And so we got our rhythm, we got in sync, we got things done. And so I think that momentum is what our players are going to feel going into this ballgame. And that's good, it's positive.
Dan, when you took over the program, let's be kind and say it wasn't very good. And you're at this stage now where you're ranked 18th. You've got almost 90 players on the team. You're looking at a 3-0 conference record. How does a team mature through something like this? You know, some teams will get off to the great start, but they'll fade, or something will happen where they'll either get, I don't know if the word cocky is correct or something. How does a coach, and with all your experience in coaching, how do you prevent a team from developing that type of attitude?
Well, if I knew and could guarantee that, I'd be a millionaire. But you know, what we try to do, you know, we talked last week about confidence and not cockiness, that kind of thing. This week we're talking about emotions, how to control your emotions. You know, there's an ebb and flow in the ocean. There's daylight and there's darkness. You know, there are flowers that bloom and flowers that die. You know, there are the seasons, and it's in every aspect of life. You have those highs and lows, and how you control them are most important. And that's what we have to do. We have that emotion. We talked about, hey, I congratulated the team on being 18th best team in the nation last night, but I said you know, remember, you got 17 more spots to go. We're not going to be satisfied with just being 18th. We weren't satisfied with being 23rd last week. I want these kids to understand that they all have the ability to reach for greatness. And if we can do that individually and put that together as a unit, as a full football team, we can do remarkable things. But it comes down to how you approach your emotions every day. If you're going to be high and excited, then you control that, and you do that in the practice. And so we're doing everything that within our realm of reason to try to keep this team focused and take a game at a time.
If you look at this season up to this point, we're halfway through the season, we have 5 games to go. What's pleased you most in the first half of the
Oh well, uh, that's kind of hard to say. I think the team unity that we had this past week was something that was really important. And I really felt the division when I first came here, offense, defense, seniors, freshmen. It just seemed to be a division every place you looked. And that was the one thing that we wanted to first address. And I saw last night during conditioning some upperclassmen, I won't necessarily name them, but helping freshmen finish their conditioning. And a few years ago, we wouldn't have seen that. We would have seen them kind of chuckling at them. And so those kind of things, I think, are most rewarding, most pleasing, because I know there's a bond developing amongst this team that'll last forever. And where we are right now, even at midway through the season, this is already a season I'll never forget. And we just need to keep pressing forward. But I think the team unity and where we're at and how focused these kids are, and their main goal and main objective is still the same today as it was at the first of training camp.
Let me ask you one final question on coaching, Dan, because a lot of people may not know that you had a stint in the NFL and you got to play under Paul Brown when he was coaching at Cincinnati, and Hank Stram when he was coaching at Kansas City, two Hall of Fame coaches. And as you look back at your coaching career and you look back to playing under those two coaches, do you see certain things that you took from them as you prepare your team every week?
Oh yeah, Tom, everything. There's been nothing that I've come up with on my own, but that was an invaluable experience at the time, and not knowing that I would be a coach someday at that point in time. I still refer back to things. I get notes out once in a while and read them. I get old playbooks out and read them, and the things that I learned from those gentlemen as professionals was just invaluable to me. And then when I had a chance to go and work the training camp with Bill Walsh, who was Paul Brown's assistant at the time. Coach Walsh was my receiver coach, and to read his books but to be in his meetings and spend that time in San Francisco, although it was just a few short weeks, was also invaluable in my ability to try to organize preparation time. And so God rest all their souls. They're all gone yet, but they still have a huge impact in the game of football today.
It's amazing that Coach Dan Kratzer could tutor under three Hall of Fame NFL coaches. Not too many coaches can say that. Dan, as we wrap things up, give me a couple keys to Jamestown College.
Well, we're going to need to be able to run the ball effectively, which we haven't been able to do on them since I've been here. And that's going to be a key offensively. And defensively, obviously, they've always thrown the ball very effectively. They've scored some key points early by air last year. We need to stop their passing game and get a little pressure on their quarterback. And if we can accomplish those two things, we'll sit here next week and talk about being 5-1.
Dan Kratzer with our Hardrocker Highlights program this week. And don't forget, it's the Hardrockers in Jamestown College this Saturday at 1 o'clock here at Denham Field, O'Hara Stadium. We'll have coverage on the Hills 97.5, our broadcast Brian Cadwalder, and at InsideMotorsports.com. For Dan Kratzer, this is Tom Rudebusch from Denham Field at O'Hara Stadium.